Hi, everybody. So, I'm really excited to be here to talk about the next episode of The Crown. This is episode 6 that we are talking about of the Netflix series The Crown, and my friend Tom is here to discuss it with me. And you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we've had a great time talking about this amazing series, and so it's going to be fun to talk about this one. And I have the chat room open if anybody wants to join us. Feel free and add your comments. We've had great comments in the on the videos that we've done, and I really appreciate those, whether it's while we're watching or in the like when it's archived. So thank you very much. And yeah, let's get started.
Okay. This one is episode is called Gelignite, and if you're wondering what the heck is Gelignite, it's stuff that they use in that they used to use in flash bulbs, or in let's see, yeah, it's a chemical that they use. It's highly explosive. It's got nitroglycerin in it and other stuff. Um, and Yeah, so the significance of the title will become apparent. So this is after the coronation and all the hoopla surrounding that. Um, Elizabeth's sister Margaret, who was all but absent and pretty diminished in the past couple episodes, now suddenly takes center stage. We see her affair with Peter. I don't remember his position exactly, or how he fits into the government, but his position in the military or the government. But anyway, he had been married. He's now divorced, and she's in love, and she would like to move their relationship into legitimacy, and so she proposes a dinner with Elizabeth and Philip, and her and Peter, so that she can express these feelings and these intentions that they want to move toward being married and legitimizing their relationship. Elizabeth is reserved, but she gives her blessing. Philip looks like he's kind of uh, he's very reserved because, first of all, he's not a big fan of Peter, but also he's worried about the implications as well. He should be. It turns out that someone in the press noticed her picking a bit of fluff off of Peter's coat, which, okay, no big deal. But the journalist rightly points out to his boss as he's pitching the story that it's a very intimate kind of gesture. And so the story that he wants to do is around the scandal, sort of, around this relationship. A scandal because um, he's very recently divorced, right? We're talking about social mores that are a lot more strict than we're used to these days.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the royal protocol that he's not that Margaret is. There are certain rules around Margaret marrying a commoner, as in someone who's not
Mm-hmm.
of royal of some kind of royal lineage somewhere. Um, she can, but there are just protocols and rules around it that she may not like at all. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that funny because I don't know everything about English history, but wasn't the whole reason that the Church of England was founded was so that King Henry could divorce his wives?
right, right, yeah,
You wouldn't think there would be such a stigma against it.
right. But and really, though, hovering over this is the shadow of the disappointment and the problems over Edward/David abdicating for an American divorcee who was a commoner,
Yeah.
right? And that practically brought down the monarchy, right? Is that rocked the nation and the whole system.
Yeah.
And um, So that is still fresh on everybody's minds.
Well, and I think that Elizabeth thinks that, well, she's not going to be queen. Why does it matter? But
Right.
it clearly
Right.
does.
Yeah, and I think some of Elizabeth's naivete is on display here, and I think she comes out the end of the episode changed, and I think this. Let's get right to my questions. I guess
Yeah.
I haven't really finished my recap, but I mean they're out there. Watch the episode. um,
That's a basic. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll
it's
talk
Saturday
about
night.
the rest
I'm
as we'll talk about the rest as we go, as the questions, I think.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you've indicated that this is not your favorite episode so far. I just wanted to know, what are some of your beefs with it?
I just thought it was really soapy, and I don't know. I just thought it was kind of. It just wasn't. I thought that they needed a better B story. Yeah, like if you're gonna have Margaret and Peter be the main thrust of the story, then then that would be okay as an A story. But I think I needed sort of a B story, maybe something with Churchill or something like that, because this just seemed very like Dynasty in the Crown kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it just seemed very soapy to me.
Yeah, it comes off that way. And frankly, I think that I think they're trying to address the audience for that kind of thing. Like, I think they're hoping to draw in some of those viewers.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And see some of it.
With Downton Abbey, it got very, very soapy. But there was always a B storyline, whether it was somebody downstairs or someone, like Daisy having some issue or something like that would kind of be, maybe if I didn't like the A storyline, I could like the B storyline a little bit better. And this I didn't feel like had that. And so if I wasn't really that invested with Peter and Margaret, it didn't, to really do as much for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The B story was a little bit understated here. I think there may be some things going on there that will pay off later, right? So what I'm referring to is sort of, just sort of carry on the recap a little, is we have a scene where Philip goes to his lunch club, right? And in England, a gentleman's club is literally a place where English gentlemen get together and hang out together. It's not a strip club.
Right.
Although the entertainment does end up being a little bit bawdy, right?
Yeah.
There's cute waitresses, and they're not exactly conservatively dressed. And yes, they talk about international affairs, but then they kind of, there's some pinups, and which in those days was pornographic, but today is pretty tame.
Right. Right.
And then, sort of the payout, the continuation of that B story towards the end is he's going off with his mates to, some house party, I think in Scotland or someplace, I don't know, some manor house somewhere. And he's like, oh, it's perfectly innocent, don't you worry, pat on the head. And she looks a little uneasy about it, and we're kind of wondering what's going to go on at this party. So yeah, there's kind of that going on, and there's not much there to sink your teeth into. Like, it's sort of sneaking in of a suspicion, like, oh well, maybe he's not totally on board with the marriage, or. But I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a big sex scandal there, but they're kind of hinting at there might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's just sort of the continuation of sort of the flying story, the different things he's tried to do to kind of have his own space and have his manhood or whatever. And but I don't think that they could, because unless there is something there that we don't know about, I doubt that they would go that far in embellishing the story to, if there's not a sex scandal of some kind, then I don't think they would just like make one.
Right. I think you're right. I think it just sort of, it's him trying to just kind of carve out his own life and his own, try to negotiate his own needs within this actually very, very, very restrictive and regimented kind of life. So it's interesting that after he had this role in the coronation, that he would kind of be sort of energized by that to do something more productive. Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, like, the way he's come on, at least the way he's played here, is that look, this is the guy for whom royalty is game, and he's a I think he knows he's a lucky stiff that he gets this to live this opulent life, and I think he's kind of being a playboy. I think that's kind of how it comes off, flying airplanes um, and gawking at waitresses and.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you almost get the impression that he's a little bit bored in a way.
Yeah,
You know
yeah, a little
that.
stir crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, that he needs to. It's not as much like, I don't know, wanting to find some way to like matter or whatever. It's almost more just find something to do with himself. It's like he's. And so yeah, that's why it did surprise me after the coronation, because that seemed like he was so effective, and like I expect him to like maybe look into new ways that they can involve the television more, or, you know what I mean, like see something kind of more initiative like that after the positive experience of the coronation. And it seems like that whole episode was almost just like forgotten.
Well, yeah, and I think this is actually in that way. I think that's the strength of this episode, that the honeymoon ends sometime, and that when you go through something in your life, you graduate from college or high school, you get married, you come home from your mission, a mission for your church or something.
Right.
You get up the next morning and you've got to live your life.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, imagine Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin getting up the next day after they've touched splash down. What do they do with themselves?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you think that Elizabeth was really as naive as she's made to seem on this show? Because I felt like from the very first episode, like it seems almost hard to believe that they didn't have the equivalent of sort of finishing school for her, where she was like basically taught on, this is what's going to happen, this is what you're going to have to do, this is you're going to have, like, it's hard to believe that she wouldn't have at least like known about the box, that she wouldn't have known about, here's going to be your daily duties, here's what you're going to, like, she'd have to have known about the picking a name and just all this stuff that it seems like they're introducing, or that she's being, I don't know, it seems like each episode it's sort of like, oh, I have to decide that, and I have to approve that, and I have to decide that, and it just seems like to me there would have been sort of a, because they know this person is going to be queen for years and years and years, and so it just seems like there would have been some kind of, I don't know, some kind of education to prepare for this more.
Well, yeah. As a rule, I'm inclined to agree with you that they're playing up our naivety a little much. In this episode, though, I think they finally are getting on track with it a little. Like, I think I bought it more in this episode than in others.
I did read up a little bit in the events of this episode, and it's pretty interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, I read the Wikipedia. So take it for what that's worth. But I read the Wikipedia on Margaret, just to see. It sounds like she was quite a character. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that yeah. Of course, she knew about the boxes. Of course, she knew about the regnal name customs. I think she knew all that. I think that the purpose that did serve a purpose though for the narrative, because if she's the protagonist, we're seeing these experiences through her eyes.
Yeah.
And since we're a bunch of dumb Americans, we need to be caught up on all this stuff.
Right. That's true. You have to kind of explain it somehow.
Exactly. And in many ways, this is like this is like a high fantasy or a science fiction, where this is a world that's quite foreign to us, and we need to figure out how it works. And we're sort of just thrown into it. So you need a character through whose eyes who's also discovering this stuff, and they need to figure it out too. So not in this episode, though. Not really. I think that the rule that, like, the Marriage Act of 1772, and she mixed up George II and George III, any of us would have mixed that up, right? And I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
And also the way she so earnestly wants to let her sister know that she supports her. in that dinner scene that's actually really sweet. And in that moment, she kind of reminded me of her dad. I think that's exactly how her dad would have reacted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is
And
sad because throughout the series, you see her wanting to do certain things, but then basically being told, nope, you can't. Nope.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So to kind of carry on with the recap here, so we have a situation where the Queen Mother is alerted as to what's going on. That Margaret wants to marry this guy, and it comes to the attention of Tommy, this humorless fellow with the Tom Selleck mustache,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts playing all the cards of, well, the rules say, right, and
He was good. I thought the actor did a good job.
yeah,
Just for the kind of role that was, I thought he was good.
yeah, he is pretty good. But the long and the short of it is that the Queen's wishes are kind of being circumvented here by tradition and the way things are done.
Mm-hmm.
And the long and the short of it is that no, turns out they don't get to get married, at least not when they want. From Margaret's point of view, Elizabeth is going back on her promises.
Well, and it's not only that; like, she goes back on several promises. It's kind of like she promises her the grand wedding, and then, oh well, no, you can elope. Oh no, you can go on vacation together. Oh no.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps getting kind of worse and worse and worse and worse as the episode continues.
Right, and they're, poor Margaret and Peter are dying the death of 1,000 cuts, right? And,
yeah. And she says at one point, like, why'd you have to dangle Scotland in front of me? And so she was kind of led right up to the well, but not allowed to drink.
Right, and actually, this is where you say it's kind of like Dynasty, yeah, kinda, yeah. But on the other hand, I actually see some Shakespearean aspects to this, where nobody's dying, which in Shakespeare that's what would be happening.
Right.
But you still have these gears turning,
mm-hmm.
all seemingly out of control of the people who you would think would be in control.
Right.
And that's an aspect of a lot of Shakespeare's plots.
That's a good point.
And it is tragic. Like the ending of this episode is tragic. There's a tearful, vindictive phone call, with Margaret and between Margaret and Elizabeth, which had been so affectionate early on. So you have these bookends of these two phone calls, each of which are interestingly connected by this chain of people whose job it is to put plugs in holes to connect the call, right? Which is sort of charming to 2016 audience.
Well, and that's where this show, man, it just the budget and just like the attention to detail and the richness,
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it such a delightful experience. Like, even if I didn't love this episode, it's still like, I don't know, it just makes it so much richer than even, let's say, something that I love, let's say the Colin Firth Pride and Prejudice. I love that, but it's just much more like a play kind of experience,
right? Yeah. The standards now of TV, the seams are showing on that old stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas now it's so everything that because of the technology, you can see things in such high def that they feel like they need to make everything so tactile and real and like you could just touch it.
Yeah. It's really beautiful, and I mean, of course, also, I mean, that old Pride and Prejudice had amazing acting. A lot of the old shows had amazing acting, but this, it's just so all the parts pretty much are all good. Even these small little moments, are all good actors, and you just got a richness to television that you just didn't have back then.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree, and yeah, so it's a little bit of a melodrama, the tearful phone call at the end, but I liked the
Yeah.
final shot. I liked the way we go out.
Remind me how the final shot. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's so you see Elizabeth put down the phone, and she's very composed, and she's in her sweater and blue sweater and skirt. And
Oh
somehow,
yeah,
just to me, her look reminds me of like a school kid or a school girl, like a high school girl of that
because she's
era.
at the equestrian place stable.
Yeah, or no. I'm talking about Elizabeth now, not Margaret.
No, Elizabeth's at the stable. That's where they have to hunt her down. Remember, and she answers the
Yeah,
phone.
but I'm talking about the way she's dressed in that scene, though. She's dressed in like a skirt and a sweater. She's not in her equestrian clothes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Forgot that.
I could almost swear
But she's at the
because
stables, though.
because to me she looks like a little girl in this
Okay.
scene, and the way she's framed in it, she's in the center, right, and to the right and to the left, it's these beautiful symmetrical archways that she's walking between,
Mm-hmm.
and it almost seems like it's all on top of her. And as she walks away from the camera, and she gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? So like her personality is disappearing into this role, into this life, and she's losing some things. I think what we're seeing here is that yes, she's being coronated, and now she's having to make good on her promises to God and to the people of England.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
sacrifice thing to keep the country together.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think in any, like, people are very critical of any politician, you know, when they get you didn't keep your promises on this, on this, and this, and this, and whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I do think there is something to the fact of, like, once you're, like, there's especially something like the president where so few people have actually, like, done the job. Like, it's not like, as opposed to senators or congressmen or something like that, Queen would be obviously an even more an example. But so few people have done the job, so few people really know what the actual, you know, demands are. And so it's one thing to talk about it, and you can talk all the promises you want, but when you're sitting in that chair, you know, with having to make the decisions with the information that you now have, with the responsibilities you have, a lot of those things I can totally see how they would end up going out the window. And so makes sense.
And I think if Elizabeth could, I think she'd say to Margaret, join the club, because you're not the first person to be ground between the gears of the monarchy here. That, you know, this is costing me personally, and it's going to cost you personally. It's just kind of the way it is. And what kind of, you know, was a kick in the gut was the way that David and Wallace Simpson were high-fiving and cackling at the whole thing. Like, it's just, oh.
Yeah, I know. That was really, really bad. And, you know, I think maybe what she would, if it was me, what I would learn from this situation is I would learn to not make those promises so quickly. And she's got to be learning that kind of now, after she's, like, had so many instances where she thought she could do something and turned out she couldn't.
Right. Well, and then so, okay, so let's say you do that. Let's play that tape forward a little bit. You know, she's your mother, and you say, you know, Mummy, I found the girl of my dreams, and we're in love, and she says, oh. And so, of course, then you grow up and you write an expose biography of how, or an expose of how, you know, Mummy was a cold, calculating, distant, you know, so-and-so, because she didn't instantly embrace my every decision and choice.
Yeah.
Well, she's the queen.
Right.
You know, and she's seen this before, where she approves, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it's just, the fact is that in her situation, as opposed to, say, if it was my situation, like, the decision really isn't hers to make. You know, like, she's got all of these other things. So I think in her situation, she has to be willing to say, kind of, I don't know. Like, I'm personally, like, you have to give sort of the answer of the queen and the answer of the sister, you know, both, instead of trying to combine them in one answer.
Well, yeah, and actually you're reminding me, this didn't occur to me till now, but you're reminding me of, like, the position you find yourself in when you're a parent. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, I've got a little boy who's about to turn 5, and Of course, Christmas is coming, and he's full of wishes and wants, right? He's
Yeah.
beholding how beautiful and sparkling and shiny the world is, and he wants it delivered to him on a silver platter. Well, you know, from his point of view, he says, "Oh, can I get this?" And I say no. From his point of view, he doesn't know any better. As far as he's concerned, Dad's just being a jerk, right?
Right.
Or why is he this? This is arbitrary. This makes no sense. But from my point of view, I've got all these other considerations.
Yeah, that's true. I just watched a Christmas Story today
There you
about the
go.
little kid that wants the, Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah,
He thinks all the adults are out to get him.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
So,
true.
yeah, and Margaret is Ralphie, and
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think but how do you feel about Peter? Do you like him? Do you not like him? Where are you at on him?
I well, I don't feel like I know him well enough.
Yeah.
He seems like a nice enough guy, I think he's got foibles that are relatable, like finding himself in a position where he doesn't see he's in a job where he doesn't see his family a lot, and then this striking young royal starts sniffing around him. It might be hard to resist.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to judge him too harshly, but it's like he's fine. Whatever. If she likes him, have at. But I'm not rooting for him or anything. Like I'm
Yeah.
not. He hasn't won me over.
There's something about him that feels like a David to the David Minor. Like he's not obviously as bad, but I don't know. Like he just seems kind of entitled a little bit, and like there's a side of me that's just like
I don't see him being such a backstabbing bitch in the the way
not as
David is
bad.
though.
That's what I said. Like junior, he's like a junior, like the
Yeah.
next level. But I don't know. I could just I feel like I don't know. There's something about him. I'm not warming up to his character. I feel like I should sort of feel for him and be rooting for him as these sort of underdogs, this underdog couple or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like him. I don't hate him or anything, but like, there's just something about that I'm not like, oh, these people are so right for each other. They have to be together. And I did read up on Margaret, and so I don't know if that is intentional, actually. I don't want to, I don't want to say it because I don't want to give away what might happen in future episodes. But anyway, so they might be kind of doing that intentionally.
Okay.
But
Like
I
not
don't know.
cozying up. Okay.
Yeah,
Because right now it looks like maybe a failing that they didn't make us like him better, or that we're not invested in them as a couple at all.
yeah. Like I'm not. Uh, Obviously, I mean, I'm not a fan of people having affairs and stuff like that, but it can be done in stories where I'm at least sort of more can kind of a little
You
bit
can
more
sympathize.
sympathetic, and I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more invested in their relationship, and you've got like your your sort of Jane Eyre kind of clones or whatever like that, kind of a thing.
Right.
and
Right.
and so but there's something about particularly him. Like I am actually pretty sympathetic of Margaret. I feel like she's being very sincere and very honest and hopeful, and so I like her. But I don't know, just something about him. I feel like he's older. He's worked with the king his whole life. There's something about I don't know. I just feel like he's not. I don't know if he's taking advantage of her really, but there's something that just makes me feel a little uncomfortable about him, I guess.
Huh. Okay. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on him.
Yes. Like I
yeah,
might
I
be
guess we're not
overstating
done with
my
him.
feelings on that. I might be kind of over exaggerating it a little bit, but I don't know. I'm just not super warmed up to him, I guess. So
Yeah. Though in general, as we were talking about David, though, it occurred to me, is David not like the the gay bad guy, but not gay?
yeah, he totally is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's totally true. Definitely. Um, yeah, so it was interesting. I mean, you did feel for Elizabeth through all of this because, it's just, you want to, I mean, I don't know if you have any sisters, but I have 3 sisters, and trying to kind of manage, like, not keep them happy, that sounds horrible, but like just trying to manage the relationship is hard. And so and I'm certainly not Annie's position like her, of course, but it's just hard in any family, let alone with the challenges that she has, and so I felt for her.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So yeah, that was one of my questions. Relates to one of my questions where Margaret gets very frank, right, in that final phone call, and says, you know what I think? I think you love this. I think you love lording at everyone that you're the queen, and we're the sorry people, and you get to make things the way you want them. Do you agree with her?
No.
At all?
No.
Not at all?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think that Elizabeth particularly, I think she would have been happy being the housewife and being the one. I mean, I guess she has had her moments where she said, you got to kneel before me. Yeah. Like, she's had a few, but I don't know. I feel like she's a pretty humble person.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That moment actually made me question whether there might be some truth to the accusation. And because generally, yeah, I'm on her side. I do think she's generally humble and knows her place, and that's why she's doing all this. That's why she's willing to let this stuff happen to her, rather than risk the state and the position that she's in. But yeah, I did wonder a little, because here's the thing, there's a great quote, adulation is poison. And I think, one of the reasons I like Elizabeth as she's portrayed in this and as a person is that I think she's a person. I like that about her. Mm-hmm. Having said that, that means that she's prone to temptation, just like anybody. Like, that there's going to be a temptation, especially after something like a coronation, right, where you are really the center of the attention. It would be kind of tough to not have it go to your head a little. But yes, there's the weight of responsibility, and that would be humbling. But also having the likes of Winston Churchill say it's your call, that would change you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess too, she says that she understands the attractiveness of Peter, but it would be easy to kind of, if you're not 100%, if you start to have doubts or something like that, because Philip obviously doesn't really like Peter. And so there may be a side of her that starts to think, well, maybe I know better. Maybe I should be making this decision, like in a somewhat sort of, not like in a somewhat sort of trying to be sort of helpful way, but in reality, like, she needs to let them make their own choices and own decisions. But she's given the power to make those decisions, and there may be a side of her that's like, I actually think I know better than you because I see these things and these signs and these whatever.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And yeah, I guess I can see why, certainly can see why Margaret would say that and why she would be angry. But I don't know. It would be almost impossible to not have a little bit of that. I think you're right. But I guess considering what it could be, she's pretty darn humble.
Yeah, I think that the major evidence here is where she, where Peter comes with her on tour as a member of staff, but he gets a lot of press attention, and and something that I had missed in watching it, but which came up in the EW recap, was that he slips and calls her Lilibet, which is her childhood nickname.
Right.
And Margaret calls her that, but that's Margaret. And he definitely gets overconfident there. And what follows then is Elizabeth kind of throws them to Tommy and says, "Look, you handle it however you want. I'm done." So yeah, it kind of looks like, from one point of view, it looks like, well, she doesn't want to share the spotlight. That's one interpretation of how the events unfold. I think it's more like she takes the monarchy personally.
The press, I was a little confused by the press because it seemed like I couldn't tell. Sometimes was the press like Margaret and Peter, or are they scandalized by it, or both?
Scandalized by it, but I think, I think it's kind of both.
Yeah, it was a
I
little
think
confusing.
they like
I felt
the romance. Like, yeah, they just like it. It is soapy in that sense. Like, even the characters you hate, you can't wait to find out what happens to them, right? So,
because at one point it felt like the news was saying like the Queen is stopping their love and not allowing them to have their love, kind of a thing. But then at another point it was like scandal at Buckingham Palace, and so I was a little bit confused about what was going on as far as that part of the episode.
Right, and I do think this is another thing where I think that, don't dismiss this episode too easily, because it does finally bring in the press, right, which is a significant part of, if you're going to look at monarchy writ large in England, it's a reality that they were beginning to have to face, was the press armed with mass media, and the press serving a public that has spent its Saturday afternoons in the dark watching Hollywood movies full of drama and romance, and this increasing hunger for drama and romance, which they kind of fed by putting the coronation on television. It was a show, right?
Yeah. The EW.com, they described it as, apparently Peter is now quite the stud, because when the royal entourage lands in Northern Ireland, the girls lose their minds.
Right. A little Beatlemania there, a little bit.
This is, the press pays little attention to the Queen and keeps commenting on Peter's position as staff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was true. I was like, I don't know, there was a side of me that was like, well, maybe this will actually help Peter and Margaret be able to get married, if like it seems like the people like it and are excited about it. Maybe that will be sort of something Elizabeth will be able to say, like, to people, well, if you guys want it, then let's go ahead and do it. Like, why are we stopping it? So I don't know, I was just a little bit confused by that a little bit.
Well, this isn't the end, for sure. I mean, we're going to see her wrestle with the press and what the public wants a lot.
Yeah.
The whole series. And I really can't wait for season 6 when we see her grapple with the death of Diana, and also everything leading up to that.
Yeah, that's going to be so good.
Yeah.
I hope they I hope Peter Morgan, the writer-director, I hope that he stays on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he did the movie The Queen, which was all about that same time period. So that'll be amazing. And yeah, the EW, she says it doesn't help. It does not help that Peter seems to enjoy the limelight, often posing a little too long for the cameras, and Liz takes notice.
Right.
So that may be part of it, that she that's why I'm saying, like, she sort of started to realize that maybe this wasn't the best decision for her sister. Mm-hmm. Whereas that maybe if she had been 100% stayed kind of where she was at that dinner as far as them, then she wouldn't have gotten as involved. And so that's one of those tricky things. It's like, do you let people make their own choices, or do you step in and say, you're not making the right choices, so you shouldn't do it?
Yeah, this is, and this goes back to what I was saying about this being kind of Shakespearean, and that the wheels seem to be coming off from minute one.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems to kind of be getting out of hand for everyone. Peter. I mean, I'm really sympathetic to him. Lingering in front of the camera a little bit, or letting it slip. Getting a little too overconfident. I've been overconfident before.
Mm-hmm.
I've allowed myself to get a big head in a situation where I feel like everybody loves me. That's happened to me. I can relate to that. So everybody's human in this, and as a result, everything goes to hell, right?
That's true. That's true. That's the great thing about this series.
Yeah.
Is everybody is so human, and it's
Yeah.
the monarchy. You don't sort of expect it. Even compared to, like, I loved Downton Abbey. I loved it, but that was much more sort of caricatures and fun sort of archetypes, played out, and it certainly had human moments. But this show is better written than that. This show has better characters than that, and this is a better show.
That's high praise indeed.
Yeah. It is. I really do. I think. I mean, the Maggie Smith. That's better than anything here. Maggie Smith is better than here. But other than that,
Yeah.
the writing is so good. Even on a not as good episode, the writing is so good here, and that's the star of every single episode. I think it's just like the way that these characters are sort of fleshed out and real, and you don't have sort of the jealous one and the petty, and the nice one, and the, like, these character archetypes. These are real, like, fleshed out human people that we feel.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Nobody's in a box.
Yeah. Maybe
yeah.
David's the only one that's kind of there.
Yeah, kind of. Though there have been a lot of moments though where they still try to make him sympathetic. We still kind of see his point of view a little bit. Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So, I will say that this is the first one where I felt like it didn't stand alone so well.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to know the background to really get it, and it is starting to creak under its own weight,
Mm-hmm.
a little. But hey, come on, it's episode 6. It's going to do that eventually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're allowed to have one that's just kind of a little bit more filler, and I mean, and it's tough because, at least according to Wikipedia, this stuff basically happened. Like, this is this as far as him getting sent to Brussels and them, him being a divorcee and that there being the problems and Margaret being very upset about it and all of that. It sounds like it was pretty accurate to me.
Okay.
I don't know, from what I read. And so it sounds like Margaret was a pretty opinionated, strong-willed person. She was pretty she's certainly no shrinking violet, that's for sure.
Yeah, and she comes off that way, and actually, it's very appealing about her.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just the girl in the ugly dress in the background. She has her own thing going.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I think the only thing I would just change in this episode is just make that B storyline a little bit better, and then I think I would have liked it a lot more.
Yeah.
I think that was sort of the key, but it's so pretty. And it's just interesting when you have two sisters, the dynamic between sisters.
Yeah, you got that going on for sure.
Is really intense sometimes, trust me. There's four in my family.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, 4 sisters. I have 3 sisters, 4 girls together, and it's a fun ride.
Have you had some vindictive phone calls with your sister?
No comment.
Oh, okay, that's fair. All right. Well,
I'm just kidding. No, nothing. I mean, we all are pretty independent, but we're all pretty. We have all pretty strong personalities. We all have strong opinions about things, and making everybody kind of, it's hard. Making a family kind of mesh and be happy, and let alone with this kind of responsibility that that Elizabeth has. Just any family, it's hard. Work to do, and you can definitely see like the loss of their father. That you can tell he was the type that would just kind of make everything right and everything peaceful, and I still, one of my favorite moments of the whole show is Margaret playing the piano with her dad. Like, I love that moment.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah.
And so when that kind of advocate is gone from a family, it's rough. It's very rough.
Well, yeah, I absolutely sympathize with that. yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that in my own life where, yeah, someone who's a very stabilizer suddenly vanishes, and you go, "What are we going to do without them?"
Yeah.
And well, now we find out, right?
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, and that question actually crossed my mind. What would have how would George have handled? Okay, so let's say it's not Elizabeth at that dinner
I
table;
kind
it's
of
George.
I kind
How's
of
he handling
wonder.
that?
I kind of wonder if Peter wouldn't have done it. If he wouldn't have had the guts. He wouldn't have had the. Uh,
Hmm.
do you think? No.
I don't. Hey, man, I don't know. I just think that's a fascinating question. Um, yeah, that's really fascinating to ponder. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, according to the show, they had this, this more sort of relationship, But from what I read on Wikipedia, there's the one difference is that she was actually a pretty religious person, and so her part of her decision, it was also because she didn't want to go kind of against the church, and she didn't want to go against something that God uh, wouldn't have approved of. So she was a more
Yeah.
sort of religious person than is portrayed in this series.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I
Huh.
don't think that they were like shacking up, like from what I read, like you see in this in this series.
Oh, okay. So
So
they were sexing it up just a little bit. And, yeah.
yeah, I think so.
That's
And
interesting. Okay.
yeah, and so Mike, I don't know. I just feel like it's one thing to sort of finally give in to sort of temptations when the boss is gone, but like when your boss that you've worked for all these years, I don't know. I just kind of wonder if he would not have even pursued the relationship.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But who knows? We
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I
But
mean, you will. Right.
if they had wanted to get married, it seems like George would have been pretty sympathetic of it, don't you think?
Oh, sure. And I mean, the George that sang with that Margaret. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the way let's leave history out of this for a second. Thinking of them as characters on TV,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think he would yearn to fulfill her wishes and give her the blessing that she wants. But I think he probably would have been a little more measured in handling the politics of it, or maybe more careful about it. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, because he had the experience of dealing with his brother. So
right. Yeah, and actually, that probably would have made his blood run cold. Now that you mentioned that aspect of it.
yeah, it's really interesting. You know, uh, like I said, families are hard. Families are tough. Managing all these different situations and beliefs and ideas and trying to make it all work. It's tough.
Yeah.
So.
So are you still in? Are you excited to watch the next one?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, good.
I didn't. This was just the first one that I wasn't like. I think pretty much everyone afterwards, I'm like, this is even better than the last. I love it so much.
Right.
And this is the first one that I was like, okay.
No, yeah, I'll go with you on that. I'll go with you on that. I wasn't. I didn't feel like the crescendo continues. No, it's okay. It's all right. But I think there was still plenty here to sink our teeth into. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I still love these characters so much that
Yeah.
for me, I'm definitely excited for the next episode and see where it all goes.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even know like, so this is going to be because it seems like we haven't gone over very much time, and now it's 6 episodes. Like I was thinking that this first season was going to be 10 years. But I don't think so because we've hardly gone over any time at all.
Well, still a few episodes left. Who knows? They might jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of wonder maybe if they will. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I don't think I have any more questions.
All right. Yeah. I mean, did you have any feelings about Philip and being this? I don't know, this gentleman's club or anything like that? I guess we talk about?
Yeah, we kind of covered that. I mean,
Yeah,
well, yeah, I'm just kind of I'm curious what they're playing at here.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to think he's just trying to cut loose and
Yeah.
and have his own space a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything terribly nefarious going on there, but
Okay. Yep. Well, we obviously are. We know that they're still married and everything, so it couldn't have gone that bad.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, good. This is good. Thank you so much for doing the questions, and we will talk next week about episode 7, and that will be really fun. Of course, things we'll have to. We're going to be probably moving things around and stuff like that because the holidays. It's just going to get tricky, but we will cover all 10. So just be confident in that. And so, where can people find you?
I'm on the internet, tgunwriter.com, and on Twitter at Elmano Roboto.
Sweet. All right. And you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and 54 Disney Reviews on my blog and here on the channel. And this week, on Sunday, tomorrow, we have my review of Charlie Brown Christmas coming up, which should be fun. And then Tangled is my Disney review this week, so that'll be good. And on Monday, we do the final, me and Abby are doing the final review of the Gilmore Girls revival. So lots of fun stuff coming up. And I will see Rogue One on Thursday, which I'm very excited for.
Oh boy.
So, yay. So, thanks so much.